we will get straight into it. This webinar is about your first 12 months in sustainability and how to create business value. So it's a roadmap, and we have a case study as well. So we will just start with a few brief introductions, and then set a little context about what is at stake, why are we working with sustainability. We will introduce the SPEC model, which is a model for getting business value out of sustainability. But then most of the time, we're going to spend talking through Boost story. I'm very happy to have Marlin here today, and we'll introduce her shortly, and she will tell all about their journey over the last 12 months or so. Hopefully there's still a little time for some Q&A, and then we'll just round up with a couple of next steps. So just to introduce myself, personally, my name is James Bryce Smith. I run Magnetize, and throughout my career, I've been a marketing director for various different international organizations, both in the UK, where I come from, and also an agency leader here in Denmark, where I've been living now for the last 10 years. And over that time, I've also been a scuba diver. And when I started out, the reefs look very much how they look on the left-hand side of your screen. And then over the years, I could see everything deteriorating. So I had this sort of like personal connection, personal experience with climate change and environmental degradation that motivated me to be part of the change to set business on a different path. So in 2018, I went back to school, Copenhagen Business School, took a master in business administration with a focus on sustainability. And since then, sustainability has been at the heart of everything I do, building on my background in marketing and communications. So then I founded Magnetize, and the mission of Magnetize is to help B2B companies turn sustainability into a competitive advantage. How does Magnetize do that? The core services are sustainability marketing, communications, and reporting. So that's both on the strategy side and on the content side. Strategy, that's working across corporate communications, corporate marketing, but also product marketing. If you have a new product that you want to launch into the market that is more sustainable, help creating the messaging, the communications plan based on audience insights and competitor analysis, and then creating all of the different sales and marketing materials that you would expect to see to support that effort. And then in recent years, I got invited to create an annual sustainability report, and that is now a core part of my offering as well. And the first report that I did was actually a few years ago, and it won an award. And that's what convinced me, okay, I've got a future in this. It was very well received by the UN Global Compact and the Society of Danish Auditors who made the award. And the Phosphates reports that I've been making have been used as a case study for how to do a good report by Erhvervshushovedstaden, which is the local Danish business community supporting companies in getting started with sustainability and other things. And actually, that's how Marlin and I met. And you can see at the bottom of the screen here, Boost AI. I'll introduce them in a second. But I created their first sustainability report for them, with them. And here you can see the other companies, a sample that I've worked with. And it's small, medium, large companies, many based in Denmark and some in other places around Europe and the world. So Marlin, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, James. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
First of all, yeah. Okay, great. So thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. Really excited about this opportunity. I'll tell you a little bit about Boost first. We are a SaaS company founded in 2016. We're a conversational AI provider headquartered in Stavanger, Norway, and we have local offices in all the Nordic countries, plus the UK and the US. And our AI agent platform, some of you might refer to it as chatbots, but AI agent is the latest term. The platform blends proprietary machine learning technology with generative AI capabilities or large language models, and we support the biggest, most regulated brands across industries like financial services, telco, public sector, and more. And as for myself, my name is Malin Jelskab, originally from Sweden. My background is in security, marketing, communication, service management. I've been with Boost for 6.5 years. I'm a senior program manager on the security and compliance team, and I manage our initiatives related to due diligence, technical research and development, and of course, sustainability and ESG.
Very good. And yeah, thank you, Malin. And we're going to come back to you. I promise you're going to have a lot of time at the microphone, but I'd just like to set a little bit of context before we bring you back onto the stage, as it were. So, why are we doing this sustainability thing? Well, very briefly, because there's a growing demand for it. Customers, employees, the world at large, regulators, investors, everyone is is pushing and pulling and raising expectations for companies to be doing business in a sustainable way. And why should how can it benefit the company? Well, before you're working in sustainability, perhaps your market share can be represented in this way by the orange segment. In other words, the overlap between what your company offers and what your customers want, minus what your competitors offer. So that's your market share. That's your competitive advantage. But if you start working with sustainability, you're able to offer more of what your customers want, and therefore your company moves down closer to your customers. The overlap gets bigger, and you can grow your market share. So what a lot of companies feel that at the moment they have a choice to make, in the sort of the overall business cycle. Are they going to jump on board this this mega trend, sustainability, and take their business to the next level, kind of renew it, refresh it, move upwards on the curve, or are they going to take a risk and be a laggard and maybe be on the downward curve? And a lot of companies see it this way, and that's what they want to avoid. So the question is then, how do you move up that curve? And so I'd like to just introduce the spec model briefly, and this is something that you can do every year, and it starts with S. So in Q1, make sure you have your strategy in place, what to work on and why. You're setting medium to long-term objectives. You're thinking about the environment, social, governance issues across the value chain, not just in your own operations. And your strategy should support overall business objectives, differentiate from competitors, and respond to your stakeholders' priorities, your customers, employees, investors, and so on. What do they expect? So that you're putting together a strategy that is part of your overall business success, not just something that is bolted on and you do in your part-time that no one is really committed to because there's no real business justification. So a strong strategy can be put together in the first quarter. Then, of course, you need to move forward into action. So P is for progress. So in Q2, you're starting to take real action to improve performance. You've got to be very clear about the priorities that you have. You've got to have a team so that you've got actions that you can allocate to people, set dates, and then have an accountability structure, regular meetings to discuss, okay, where are we moving forward? What seems to be stuck? How can we get unstuck? And then E is for evidence. So you need to be able to create a credible reputation for sustainability, that you're actually walking the walk. And so providing evidence is the way to do that. It's the basis for trust and communication. And this includes things like sharing your carbon emissions. Maybe you do a life cycle assessment of a product, sharing those results. Sharing your progress on auditing your supply chain to make sure that they're complying with your code of conduct, for example. And third-party accreditation, having the badges in place can really help provide a shortcut that demonstrates that you're doing the right stuff. And all of that builds a fantastic foundation for strong communication. Communication that's going to build your brand preference in an authentic way. And that includes doing an annual sustainability report, and then from there you can create all kinds of sales and marketing materials, investor presentations, internal meeting content here for employees, and celebrating your successes. And then make sure that you are getting that stakeholder feedback and measuring how you're moving the needle with these different stakeholders. And by implementing the spec model, by going through those steps year by year, you are able to make progress and start bending the curve upwards and make sustainability fundamental to your business. So with that, that's the theory. And now we're going to hear how it works in real life. Marlin, I remember, when you started back in, towards the end of 2023, you were pretty much, operating your business in a classical way, and especially, not paying too much attention at that time to environmental factors. So, can you just give us a little reminder about, well, what happened? Why did you go down this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you skip to, perfect. So our journey, sustainability and ESG journey started towards the end of 2023, when our main investor asked us to publish internal and external codes of conduct, which we did. Obviously, you see screenshots of them there on the left-hand side. And at that time, we were also we had the expectation on us to fulfill or complete a annual sustainability survey. And you can see the progress that we did. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but we've already made quite a significant progress, improving our score. And I think maybe it's worth to spend some time also on customer expectations, because that's what
Yes.
Absolutely. And at the time when this started to take off for real, we had already seen, or we were already used to seeing for quite some time, more and more ESG and sustainability questions, requirements, expectations pop up in practically every tender that we compete for. And then you also have the annual annual supplier audits that existing customers send to us, due diligence assessments from potential customers, and things like that. So it started definitely picking up towards the end of 2023.
Yeah, so some strong signals from some key stakeholders there. And in Q4 of 23, you created your sustainability program. And I wonder if you can just take us through that, just introduce us to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to spend a little bit of time first on how we put together the internal committee or work group, because it was really clear to us early on the importance of having backup or buy-in from the entire organizations, both all levels, top to bottom, but also across all departments. And I'm incredibly happy and proud to say that our ESG team setup absolutely reflects that, because with me I have colleagues from tech, from customer success, HR, security, and marketing, and I probably forgot something there, but it means that all of us bring diverse perspectives, expertise, interests to the table, and it gives us the strong foundation and foothold for all the work that we've done to date, but also we're going to do going forward. So as you can see, to make the work more manageable, we split the ESG team into 3 separate work tracks or work streams. So you have Boost Green, and their overall objective is to reduce climate impact or footprint of our organization and our technology. And then you have Boost Social, and they work towards embracing diversity and building community, getting involved with local charities and things like that. We'll go into more detail later. And Boost Govern, their overall objective is to ensure that we continue to act responsibly and transparent and continue to deploy our AI technology in a responsible and fair manner.
Great. So three very clear tracks, each with their own team. And I wonder if we could just have a little peek inside those tracks, just so that you can briefly show us what is in them.
Yeah. So Boost Green, well, each track has 3 KPIs, and for Boost Green, they are the percentage of green servers, meaning the server hosting of our platform that is being run on renewable energy. The second KPI is watts per conversation, and by conversation I mean the actual AI agent or chatbot conversations that end user have with our product. And then the third KPI is miles of air travel and office emissions per employee. The rationale for choosing these KPIs is simply that we already had access to some emissions data from our third-party hosting provider. And in terms of miles of air travel, we were just about, when we started this work, we were also about to implement a central travel booking tool where we can track business flight emissions. So that worked out perfectly. And it made absolute sense for us to choose KPIs connected to this information to then rather focus on developing a plan for how to decrease them in the long term. And then a couple of actions to support the KPIs: push for greener offices when we look for office space, start recording the business travel in the tool, and improving code efficiency from the technical department. And then obviously communication is a big part that I know we're going to spend a bit more time on later.
Yeah, but just to pick up on the communication, why did you decide that it was important to start promoting and communicating to external stakeholders what you're doing right now? Why not sort of wait a few years? Or
so I suppose what it comes down to is building the trust or maintaining the trust, nurturing the relationship with all our stakeholders, so both internal and external interested parties, and then absolutely to demonstrate the progress that we will be able to show from the first report that came out end of last year, and where we will be in a year, a year from now, and then obviously to demonstrate the continued commitment that and the effort that we put into this program to get the credit for it.
Yeah, get the credit, and it's information that stakeholders want. So share with it. You're not in the business of green hushing at Boost.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's just take a look at some, because you also created targets for the next 3 years, or for the first 3 years of your program. And I think we'll just take a quick glance at the Boost Green targets. And we're definitely not going to read through this whole slide, so no one should be scared. But you can see 24, 25, 26, 3 years of targets. And only in the top line, the 100% renewable line, is there actually a number. And I think it's just interesting to point this out. As you said, your supplier was already able to provide you some numbers. But with a lot of sustainability programs, and we can see yours included here, there's a need in 2024 to establish a baseline, and that's quite normal. And it also means that that many sustainability reports, many companies' first sustainability reports, actually don't contain that much data, that much numbers at least. Of course, they can describe everything that you're doing, but the numbers are not there until perhaps year 2 or year 3, and so on. And then that builds out over time.
And I just want to Yeah,
Oh, yes,
sorry,
yeah,
interrupting. I just wanted to point out to the audience then that was, I remember that was one of the first thing that you told us when we first started collaborating, was that, you know, you might feel the need to present perfect info, perfect data, and get frustrated when you, this maybe wasn't so easy, but that doesn't mean that you can't start the work, right? Because you can set out the plan, you can set out the commitments and ambitions in your first report, and then just trust the process that you will have more detailed information
absolutely.
to share in the next report,
Yes,
basically.
exactly. Trust
Yeah,
the process. The
yeah.
details will come. So let's take a quick peek into Boost Social.
Yeah. So Boost Social, our second work track, their KPIs is to increase gender diversity in our business, because it's quite a male, tech is a male-dominated industry. The second KPI is outreach and community, committing hours to give back, for example, through local charities. And then the third KPI is the employee net promoter score. And similar to the KPIs we just saw for Boost Green, we picked these KPIs because we had either initiatives planned or already in place, which could be easily connected to this effort. So for example, the employee net promoter score, we already had an HR or employee engagement platform that sends out regular surveys that we then have to answer, and then we measure temperature and employee satisfactions on predefined topics. So that's a good example. And then as far as the supporting actions go, I want to spend some time firstly on the Women in Tech, or WIT initiative. Women in Tech in Boost, we meet once a month on to discuss and vent about topics like imposter syndrome, investing, the gender gap in STEM disciplines like science, tech, engineering, and math. And sometimes we invite external guest speakers. And then the second initiative or action I want to point out is the Mental Health Week, which we ran it for the first time in June last year, with lots of different activities going on related to themes like mindfulness, gratitude, stress management, nutrition, and sleep. And it was a huge success.
I remember, after that event, you told me about your CEO,
Yeah.
who was, up on the stage, in front of the whole business, actually telling about some of his, mental health, challenges, with stress or anxiety,
Yeah.
and that must have been pretty powerful.
That was extremely powerful, and I think not the least, it was an important reminder for everyone in the company that we all struggle every now and then, and that's totally fine. I think the most important, his contribution there was to set the bar, or open the door, if you will, making it a lot easier for everyone in the organization to talk about these things, because it can be quite hard just to know where to turn, or to reach out and ask for help.
Absolutely.
And we're definitely going to do it again this year, just to confirm.
That was
Absolutely.
a great success. And I think, at this point, you've already mentioned a couple of times that that you've been able to bring previously initiated activities into your sustainability ESG plan. And I think that's an important point to note, because a lot of companies who are getting started, they might be thinking, well, they're just starting with a blank piece of paper. What on earth do we put in it? But actually, going through this process makes you realize, actually, we're doing quite a lot of stuff already. Yes, we need to add to it, but we are, we're not actually starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of companies, the governance part, can be a bit of a black box, a bit of a mystery. What is that? How was that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking maybe we can look just quickly at the roadmap for social, just
Oh
to,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, very good point. Yeah. So here we have the KPIs. You can see for gender, yeah, we starting to increase those percentages within a range each year. For the community outreach, that's 8 hours per employee each year, and that number goes up because as your number of employees is expected to go up. And then again, increasing the employee net promoter score by 2 points each year, based on the baseline in 24. So perhaps nothing too controversial there, but just nice to have a little look in it. So
Yeah.
then let's get on to the G of governance. And was that a bit of a mystery for you?
Yeah, I mean, I can come out and be honest and transparent that I had no idea what the governance part of ESG stood for when I signed up or embarked on this journey. So let's just say I learned a lot in the past 12 months. So just to go over, because I also head up this work stream, so it's kind of my baby a little bit. Our KPIs for Boost Govern is the first one is responsible conduct in the workplace. The second one is directly connected to our information security and privacy compliance. And the third KPI is a little bit more broad, responsible AI, and basically checking in with our customers, how they feel that we deliver on this commitment. And the reason for choosing these KPIs is, well, number one, Boost AI has 2 ISO certifications, so one for information security and one for privacy. And the work involved in maintaining that compliance involves a lot of continuous effort, tasks that just we will have to keep working on, and we wanted to channel that focus, that effort, that energy directly into the sustainability program. And training and awareness, as you can see on the supporting action sections, there is a significant part of all of this. And also to conduct regular reviews and audits to ensure that we maintain the compliance. And as I mentioned, checking in with our customer base, how they feel, what their impression is, how we deliver on our responsible AI commitments, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think we can see some of those actions reflected in in your targets. For example, if we look at the top line here, the number of ethical violations or non-compliance reported is going to go from 10 in 24 to 20 in 25 before coming down to 15 in 26. And that's because training and awareness, as you point out, is required to make sure that people understand what they need to report,
Exactly.
What a non-violation is and how to report it, and so on. And people to get comfortable, perhaps also that they're not going to get into trouble, for pointing this stuff out. So that's why you expect to see the number of tickets increase from 10 to 20 before it starts to come down, before you can start to get your arms around well, what are the issues here, and manage them and reduce them. As for the other KPIs, I guess they're the normal sort of 60, 70, 80% trend that you would expect, and the customer survey score also going up a little bit each year. So that was the the overview of the master plan. So the big question is, how do you ensure action?
Yeah, so to date, until the report came out end of last year, we had met once a month in the wider ESG team. I think we are somewhere between 12 to 15 colleagues working or involved, and we continue with that routine throughout 2025. So we have monthly meetings set up to align as a team and make sure that we are all working towards the same goal, which is to prep and to start writing the next report and make sure that we have a plan for it. And in between those monthly meetings, I mean, each subgroup, they meet as often as they need to, or at least check in with each other to ensure progress on assigned tasks. So what we did when the report came out in November was to break it down and list all the commitments made, basically, and there was a lot. We just want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And we delegated each commitment or each action, each task, whatever you want to call it. We delegated each of them to one of the three groups, assigning an owner, and doing it this way. I mean, it seems maybe a little bit detailed, but doing it this way helps us track progress. We can hold each other accountable, and it's also easy to see if somebody or one of the work streams is struggling and maybe needs some help to overcome whatever obstacle is in the way, figuring out a task. And having this structure in place also, I definitely helps with our to keep motivation up for everyone. And knock on wood, things have been running relatively smoothly so far. So this is definitely something we want to keep doing.
Absolutely. And so does that mean you actually managed to meet your 2024 objectives?
Yeah, I would very much like to say so. And I mean, that you saw from the previous roadmap slides, per one for each team there, our focus for last year was to provide educated estimates, or at least arrive at some sort of baseline figure that we can then start measuring against, just to have a starting point, and then rather focus on making a plan for either the data collection, or if you already have an educated estimate, then obviously work to either increase or decrease it depending on what the figure represents. And then absolutely, we're already starting to deliver on some of the supporting actions that we have committed to, and the progress on everything will be communicated in the next report.
Perfect. Okay, so that brings us on to reporting, and here we can see that the front page of your report. We're not going to dive into the many pages of that during this session, but we can talk a little bit about some of the the key themes. And so halfway through last year, you came to me for help with your sustainability report, and we worked on that together. And you had you've pretty much been doing everything yourselves regarding your ESG program. So why therefore did you decide to outsource or get some external help with this particular thing?
I think, I mean, we might not have been aware of it at the time, but clearly we had done a lot of groundwork, a lot of legwork, but also keeping in mind that we were all doing this for the first time. So we definitely needed somebody with experience to guide us through the entire process, basically from start to finish, helping us figure out how to present all our work to get the maximum credit for it, but also educating us for the next time, because I mean, we're going to have to do this every year now, and also challenging us to look for better answers, look for better solutions along the way, and also to help keep the pressure up internally, because a lot of things compete for our attention. But as we made clear, we are going to use sustainability and ESG as a competitive advantage, so it deserves the attention. So to meet project deadlines, it's always nice to have somebody to make sure that you don't fall off the track, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, very good. And so if we can just talk about, before we talk about all the wonderful things about having a report, let's just focus a little bit on what was the hardest part of the process in your experience.
Yeah, I keep coming back to, we might not be aware of all the legwork that we have access to or that we've done. But getting that initial first structure in place, like what do we want to communicate with this report? How do we make it make sense to any stakeholder that is going to read it? What information do we want to include? What data do we have to have perfect data? How ambitious do you want to be? Because you obviously want to put your best foot forward, but you also have to make sure that you will be able to deliver on that commitment. And then absolutely getting help to figure out the data collection parts where it's not obvious. If you don't know where you can get the data, that's been a bit of a challenge, knowing what data will be good enough and so on. But I think we did a pretty good job there.
Yes, we had some discussions, didn't we, about once we saw the data on the table, okay, do we include it, do we not? And maybe if we don't include it this year, how can we build a better data set for next year?
Yeah.
So what were the benefits of reporting?
There are so many. I'm not even sure where to begin, but I mean, if we start with the report itself, it absolutely represents a significant milestone on Boost AI's journey as an organization. And I think it's, I assume that everybody on the call will agree that sustainability is no longer optional for companies, but and for us, it's absolutely critical to keep growing, to stay relevant with our stakeholders, because the market, the conversational AI market that we are in, is so insanely fast-paced that things can change from one day to another. I mean, that's an extreme case, but still, that's what we're used to. So we have to sort of get our message out there. And the report is evidence that we are able, as it says here, align our business operations with sustainable business practices. And it also details how we do it, or how we plan to do it, or how we commit to do it. And I think what it boils down to at the end of the day, and we touched upon it earlier here, that what it comes down to is building trust with your stakeholders, right? And both internal and external. And we want to be open and transparent in sharing our sustainability progress, but also be confident about discussing challenges, how we solve them, and keep demonstrating that commitment to running a successful business that also supports a better tomorrow. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic work. And could you tell a little bit about the reaction then from customers, employees, investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's been nothing but positive. If we start with our main investor, you saw if you remember on one of the first slides there, that we went from a total score of 4% to 67% in their annual sustainability survey. And when we filled out that second to last survey, we didn't have this report. It wasn't done. And we also didn't have our relatively recent commitment to the Science-Based Target Initiative. We're going to spend some time on that shortly. So we are, of course, very excited to see how those significant initiatives will influence the scoring of the latest survey. I had hoped to have the results by this webinar, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And in terms of employees, colleagues, I've had so many people sharing comments like they're just surprised that, wow, we had no idea that we're doing all of this in Boost. Like, things are happening in every department in all levels of the company. And it's really cool to notice that there is an increased sense of pride now, and we can talk much more confidently about all things ESG and sustainability, and we walk a little bit taller in the corridors in the office, because we have this effort, this evidence to lean on. And then as far as our customer base goes, as I also mentioned in the beginning, we have a lot of customers that operate on a global basis in heavily regulated industries, and they themselves are mandated by really strict ESG regulations. So as a supplier to a company like that we are able to showcase our efforts in a report, it definitely helps us maintain and protect and safeguard the trust that we have in that relationship, thanks to this report.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And can you put your finger on what specifically about the report made it so strong?
I think the short answer will be the letter from the CEO on the first page. Like, it was a conscious effort to make this honest, transparent, and not just show the easy, the good sides, but also be confident enough to mention when things maybe didn't go as planned, or we didn't get the result or the output that we were hoping for. So I suppose we're going to have to stay tuned and see what the content of the next report will be like, see how many lessons learned we can bring up there.
Absolutely. And of course, the report gave you, pulled everything together, a lot of content, a lot of material from across the business. And it suddenly, it gives you a lot that you can communicate about. So I think we should, spend a couple of minutes, on that. Perhaps you can just, things like, web pages, social media, sales slides, content for the the RFPs and so on. So, what impact is this? All of this content making in sales situations?
Yeah, it's been very, very powerful. I mean, the one conclusion we can make is that we are winning new business thanks to this effort, thanks to this report, thanks to this evidence. Because, as we mentioned before, we were able to demonstrate in a much better, more powerful way now the progress that we're making in this area. And building on what we've done so far, the Science-Based Target Initiative is a great example, because there was a prospect that put this forward as a hard requirement in an RFP we're competing for, and we won it because we were able to confidently make that commitment, and we will have delivered on it within the first half of 2025. So that's really exciting.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, to get customer wins in your first year, this is absolutely what every business wants. From investing in sustainability, and it also just helps to keep the momentum. The business can see, crikey, there's a revenue benefit from all of this. We really must keep pushing with it. But I know that you've also been working a little bit with employee communications and onboarding and bringing in attracting new people to the business. So what's been the reaction there? How are you using all of this information in that process?
Yeah, so we mentioned the ESG team, our sustainability effort in the onboarding of all new staff, and we actively recruit to the internal work team too, because you can always benefit from new people coming in, seeing things differently. And we were talking about that diverse perspective earlier. And it's a fact that younger generations, they prioritize sustainability when they make job decisions, right? Mm-hmm. We've done the research, we figured out, we learned, we got the evidence that purpose-driven work like this very much creates a much deeper sense of meaning. And it doesn't just help attract the best people in tech, but it also helps retaining those resources. And we are noticing higher levels of engagement, job satisfaction, motivation. And I'm not just talking about the ESG team, like my colleagues that are directly involved in the effort, but from all levels and departments in the company, which also points to the importance of doing the communication, keeping people in the loop, and make sure that we give ourselves the credit we deserve for doing it. So yeah, the trend is absolutely positive.
Very cool. And so then what about the investor? I mean, your investor, they were the one that started all of this. How is your kind of your image, your reputation, or how do they see you? How's that changed over the last year or so?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I was hoping that we would have the latest score from the sustainability survey to show you in the webinar, but I'll have to get back to you on that one. What I can say is that we're definitely expecting it to go up again, thanks to the report and thanks to the number of other initiatives that we will get our hands on. I mean, this has been a success factor, a key factor in getting the continued support of our investor, because they can see that we are thinking about or working hard to make the business stronger in the long term, build resilience, and then also, of course, demonstrating the long-term growth potential much clearer with this evidence. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, brilliant. And yeah, and congratulations to everyone on such a tremendous effort in coming so far and getting those amazing results within your first year or so. So if we can now just spend a moment to look ahead, that first year or so, that's really just the beginning. So perhaps you can tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, we definitely have our work cut out for us, and I mean, now the ball is rolling. There is no stopping it, right? So we have a clear set of priorities for 2025, and of course, as we've been talking about throughout the presentation, is to keep delivering on the commitments, the actions, the promises made in the first report, and report on the progress there. So that's the KPI part. But then I mentioned also the Science-Based Target Initiative. We are actually halfway through that project. We are working with an external provider we've gathered the data. They are now helping us doing some calculations. We're trying now to figure out how to prioritize the actions we're going to have to take in order to meet the targets. We haven't set the targets yet, but we will also do that within the first half of 2025 and get those submitted for validation and publication. So that's really, really exciting. And when that's done, we're going to move on to obtain an EcoVadis scorecard, which we decided to do as a second step after SBT, because a lot of the data that you gather and map and organize for the SBT can be used directly into the EcoVadis assessment. So really looking forward to getting that in place, because that's another thing that we see keep popping up in RFPs and other tenders that we compete for. And then the third or fourth item there is the Carbon Disclosure Project, which is basically, I know there is an overlap to the SBT, and that was also one of the hard requirements from a prospect in a tender that we won. So basically, if you're doing one, you might as well do the other. And that's how we ended up where we are.
Yeah.
So it will be
interesting to see. Sorry, please.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying we definitely have a work cut out for us, and it's going to be a busy year.
Yeah, you've added a fair bit into your program there, but what's great about it is that you are with each of these three things you've added in, you're responding to customer demands, so you're going to be stand even better from a competitive perspective than you did last year, where you've already started winning business. So congratulations and and all the best for the continued journey there. I think we are, because of the delay with with getting started, we perhaps don't have time for Q&A, but should there be any questions in the chat, or if you'd like to get in touch with Malin after the event, then please do. There's my email address at the end, which we'll come to in a second, and you can direct your questions to her through me. So, but I think we should just wrap things up briefly with maybe you could just, okay, let's squeeze it a little bit, Marlon. And do you have any sort of big takeaways or learnings from the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I first want to say that this has been and continues to be one long learning curve every day, every week, because it's daunting and overwhelming at times. But at least now we're able to take a step back and not stress too much. But one of the first things that we bumped into was just the first priority should be to figure out if your organization is bound by any regulations that mandates how and what you should be reporting, because it took us quite some time to figure out the process involved in getting validated as an SME as opposed to an enterprise, right? Because it's the main, some or all of you probably have heard about the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, right? CSRD. So that was our first step. Like, we want to make sure that we start this journey off right. And then it turned out that, yes, we are an SME, so we can take a little bit, we get an easier start. But at the same time, we want to use this opportunity to experiment a little bit, go as creative as we can be, to figure out what works, what doesn't for Boost. So that would be the first step, to figure out the regulation part. And then, I mean, yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to the entire ESG team. Basically, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for my colleagues. So you got to allow yourself to have some fun also along the journey, right?
Absolutely, and I think you're definitely starting to move up this curve, and with sort of continued work, you're gonna get the fruits from your labor. And if there are other companies out there that that need some assistance along the way, then please do reach out. We can book a 30-minute discovery meeting, and my details are on the screen here. And please also send me any questions that you have for Marlon, and apologies that we were not able to take them now. But from Marlon and me, thank you very much for listening. I hope you got what you wanted to get out of this. But please be in touch should you want to have more guidance on your individual situation.